It's a pleasure to have Cassie with us today, one of the well-known figure in the market of Middle East and in the market of AEC. I will not talk more about him, rather than I will ask him about himself because he knows better than us. Hello, Casey. Welcome to BIM Beyond Borders. Could you please let our viewers know about your background and history?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the opportunity to do this. It's nice to finally get an opportunity to have a good session with you guys, discussing what we're going to be just talking about in industry. Yes, about me. My name's Casey Rutland. Professionally, I'm an architect, although I haven't practiced architecture for a long time. I pivoted into digital transformation about 13, 14 years ago. So that's really a conscious decision. It was something I enjoyed. Architecture is still a passion of mine, but it's very much a different part of what I do and how I operate now. But that grounding of architecture has set me off well in terms of understanding how the industry works, understanding how to manage people and manage processes and the design process and delivery process of buildings. So that was really my foray into the world of digital, was understanding how to deliver buildings using software that was different to typical drawing. And that's what enabled me to see another side of what I was doing, because I've always also been interested in sustainability, and being able to have a virtual representation of what we're designing and then test it for various different things kind of led me on this path of digital transformation, and enjoying it so much that I now help other people become more digital in the way they're working.
Okay, good one. And how about your recent experience in Middle East landscape?
It's everything I expected and more. I've been coming out here for over 15 years or so, and seeing the industry, the vision that the industry has in terms of their ambition and what they're trying to achieve, both physically in the built environment itself, but also from a virtual perspective as well, from a digital perspective. So it's interesting to see, for me, that there is actually, as you probably have noticed also, there is a gap between the competency and capabilities of what industry can deliver and what the vision is. And that's brilliant, because that enables the industry then to rise up to meet that. And that's how you get industries that do genuinely transform. If you've got an industry that can function at this level, and all the country or the nation or the clients are asking for is this level, then everything stays at this level. But if you've got a vision that's much higher, then it forces industry to learn new ways of doing things, and across the board.
And how we can fill that gap?
Oh, numerous different ways. The way I work with companies to go through this process, it's very much a change management process. So I tend to work to what they call an ADCAR process. So the first point is raising awareness of things, and a lot of things that, like this session, is raising awareness, what's possible, what is going on around the world globally, how we can start to solve things. But then the second part is creating desire. And in other discussions we've had in other conferences, we're talking about trying to create a level of FOMO, fear of missing out, in industry, to encourage people to go, what am I missing out on? Why should I be doing this? And a level of excitement that we need people to do. And then we go through further stages of the ADCAR process, which is then knowledge, ability, and then rewards. So showing people how to do certain things, giving them the skills, practicing it, and then celebrating successes. And then that feedback loop goes all the way through. So it's not just about saying, we've got a new piece of software, everyone must use this software. It's very much about creating that desire and then rewarding the changes as and when they come.
And are you seeing this trend is growing in the Middle East? We will be talking more about Middle East basically. Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts about this trend, that the capabilities and capacities of the engineers or architect or the professionals, is it growing in this market?
It is. I'm sure people would want to see it grow quicker, and it's really about the range and broadness of skills, because what we see right now, and I'm sure we people watching would also recognize this, is it's a very narrow way of delivering things. So what we see a lot of clients asking for is a particular software version, and everything must be using this software, it must be doing this. So everyone's skills are therefore focused on that very narrow delivery mechanism. And I think from my point of view, and we'll talk about it a bit more in terms of broadening the skills and understanding that we are creating data about things, about processes, about spaces, about all sorts of things in the built environment. And we can use whatever software we want, as long as we're if the clients are asking for this standardized format, then that enables us to use the right tool for the right job, rather than just being asked to provide one piece of software.
We just talk about data. So BIM is, means I went through a lot of the forums where the people are claiming that BIM is more about data. What are your thinking about it? Let's explore more on this.
Yeah. So the BIM process, and when I say that, it's in the context of the international standard ISO 19650, is an internationalized version of what we had in the UK, which was BS 1192. And those documents are very similar, as you might expect, but they are there not to create a 3D model and then create PDFs. They're there to say, right, we need to have a virtual representation of the design and all sorts of things you can use these design tools for during the design process, during the construction process, into operation. There are so many opportunities to just do what we do, but better. And that requires data. So the ISO 19650 standard is all about creating interoperable shared data about the things. So, but it's also got to serve a function. We've still got to build buildings, build roads, rail lines, or whatever, and then we've got to operate them. So it's got to be functional, and it is. But what I'm seeing, is a separation between what typically are seen as BIM people doing a certain piece of the work, creating models, doing design coordination. And I use that phrase deliberately because clash detection it's a phrase that people use, but it means it's somebody else's job. If we call it design coordination, then suddenly architects and engineers and senior people get involved because they want to know that something is buildable. So we need the data about the things to be able to do a lot of these things, whether we're calculating embodied carbon or doing life cycle analysis or monitoring different scenarios for escape purposes or going for the building permit process. We need data about things. And that's really where it sits.
So data and engineering, basically, I want to get an answer from your side on one question what I received recently in my LinkedIn inbox. He stated that I am a structural engineer and I don't want to join BIM because of it will keep me out of my core job, structural engineering. And I don't know how to reply this question.
From a fundamental point of view, I know lots of structural engineers who do use broadly a BIM authoring process. And that's you need to understand more about where that question came from. Is that person assuming that BIM is Revit and they don't want to learn how to use Revit? That's fine. If you don't want to use it, don't use it. There are other software tools available. There are free tools available. There are other paid tools available. But if, as an engineer, you can't see the value in modeling your scheme design, then testing it, analyzing it, optimizing it, and understanding how a change in one particular area might affect another change, then I guess you go back to first principles and calculations on paper and pen.
So about BIM, why should I learn BIM?
I think the other question is, why shouldn't you?
Okay.
It's just the industry is, as we know it now, is much more complicated, complex. There are more people involved. The projects that we're doing are more ambitious, especially in this region. And if you even try to imagine doing it in a way that didn't involve modern tools to allow you to prove that the design was meeting certain requirements and was buildable and can be managed and operated through its life cycle, then it's more a question of why wouldn't you rather than why should I? And I think that's a lot of things that people miss about what the opportunities are. And we've all seen the articles on LinkedIn about BIM is dead and there's BIM 2.0 or whatever is this new thing coming along. And I think all people should understand is that this is a progression. This is just where we are right now. Is a suite of tools that we have. There's vast arrays of software, of analysis tools, and all sorts of clever things that we can do, but they will change. And that's a good thing, because we've reached the limit of certain pieces of software you might be traditionally using, and there's a new piece or there's a new version. And I think that's the mindset that we as designers and engineers and construction companies need to get into. It's this constant evolution of how we deliver.
What is your piece of advice for the engineers and architects? Those are just freshly graduate or studying their graduation and post to learning about BIM, how they can dive into this process or tools and all.
I would suggest they start reading, doing their research, and it depends which part of the supply chain you're in. So if you are an architect, yes, go to the architectural press, go to the Royal Institute of British Architects. There's lots of information about digitalization. I would be wary about learning on generic LinkedIn posts, especially these days when a lot of them are AI generated. But there is a decent amount of information out there. There are portals and organizations such as NEMA, which what used to be called the UK BIM Alliance, free guidance on the website. So go and read it, go and learn, find out your position in it. And my opinion, a lot of people, when you first start talking about BIM, will instantly, within the first few paragraphs, get onto the topic of collaboration. And in some ways, not in all ways, but in some ways, I think too much emphasis is placed on that. And actually, I'm a big advocate of being a little bit selfish with it. So read the documents, understand your position, understand what your role is on a project, but then adopt something that works for you, for your reasons, and then you will see the benefits. If you're trying to understand the whole ISO 19650 BIM process, and you say, well, this bit's not relevant to me and that bit's not, of course, some of it isn't relevant to you, but there is a portion of it that is. If you're an architect, engineer, cost consultant, project manager, product manufacturer, there's elements of the whole process that people need to be involved in. And I think once you've found your way and other people have found their way, suddenly when the similar types of people are working on a project together, then the collaboration happens.
And could you please let us know more about NEMA or UK BIM framework, what exactly it is?
UK BIM framework is now called the Information Management Initiative, and that is run and coordinated by NEMA. Website is wearenema.im, link on screen. But it's there as a group of volunteers, practitioners, specialists from all across industry, not just in the UK. It's a global organisation now, contributing to guidance, help, assistance to help others in their same position. So the guidance to ISO 19650 has been written by people doing it. And that's really valuable. So yes, those organisations, the Information Management Initiative is the UK's approach to adopting ISO 19650 and related standards in the UK. But the general guidance from NEMA is applicable to most people.
So as per my understanding, if I would like to learn more about ISO 19650 series, NEMA is a better place for me to learn it?
In terms of well thought out, well considered, community drafted guidance, official guidance, yes, it's there. You don't necessarily have to go out and buy the ISO 19650 suite of standards. They're ISO standards, and typically any ISO standard is written in a certain way as guarded by ISO, the organisation. But the guidance that we've written is a more easy read for people to get into, and it's free.
Moving to the next one, what is Open BIM? And I believe you are biggest advocate in this market for Open BIM. Could you please explain?
Biggest advocate, maybe, I'm not sure, but there are lots of us out there doing this. So Open BIM is the idea that, to quote my vice chair at Building Smart UK and Ireland, Nick Nisbet, the data should exist outside of the software that created it. So we all know if we use a piece of software and we save the file in a proprietary format, then it's pretty much only that piece of software that can open that file format. And that's what Open BIM tries to get around in that if we have team members using different pieces of software, you might have an architect using Rhino, you might have the MEP guys using Revit, the structural guys might be using Tekla, the civil or the road layout people might be using Civil 3D. So lots of different types of software, all perfect for doing their particular task. But then how do you get that information to come together to do the design coordination? And that's what Open BIM is. So there is a globally standardized way of describing the built environment that's computer interpretable and arguably human readable. And that's called Industry Foundation Classes, IFC. And Open BIM is the use of IFC and the related tools and resources that Building Smart prepare to get us to be able to use the right tools and create this standardized data.
Okay, and how I can train myself for Open BIM standards?
Similar to the NEMA story, if you head to either the same NEMA website, you'll get to one of the tabs is for Building Smart UK and Ireland. So Building Smart UK and Ireland and NEMA are one and the same organisation, just with different groups of people that look at different things. And I'm chair of Building Smart UK and Ireland. And with my vice chairs, Nick and Emma, we coordinate a group of just over 30 committee members now. And we represent different, what Building Smart call domains. So they're kind of sectors. So there's airports, there's infrastructure, there's rail, there's products, there's buildings, there's regulatory, and 3 others. So they're all there specifically to target and provide useful information to all of those sectors. And if you run out of reading or you've got extra reading time, then you can go to Building Smart International, and that's got a whole load of information. There is a chapter for Building Smart in Building Smart Saudi Arabia, and they have just started. They launched a few months ago. So they're here promoting, again, same things in the region. And the beauty of Building Smart is that all of the chapters so far, and there are 40 chapters around the world, we're all promoting the same thing. The majority of us are volunteers, again, and we do it because we know it's the right thing to do.
So everyone is talking about what is BIM. I would like to ask, what is not BIM?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. It depends. BIM is not a silver bullet. It's not going to solve everybody's problems, but it has a particular way of working that can create information for people to be able to solve certain daily challenges that they might have. And that's where I think what we call use cases come into the question. There are hundreds of different use cases. There are catalogs, online catalogs, searchable catalogs of different use cases, and they're hosted on the Building Smart use case management tool. But what industry often discusses are dimensions, and it is becoming quite a challenge once you get beyond 4D. 5D is generally accepted. 4D, 1, 2, 3, and 4D are generally accepted scientific definitions of dimensions. Cost is something we've added with 5D. But even then, when we talk about 5D, it's the application of cost to data to create information. But even if we have clients that say, I would like 5D, what do they actually mean by that? And it's not, most people would jump to, we need to understand how much it costs to build. But if you take a step back and say that 5D is a category of use cases that relate to cost, then it becomes more helpful to people. So within 5D, you could have pre-design costs, you could have construction costs, you could have operational costs, you could have carbon costs, you could have energy costs, you could have all these different types of costs where finances or money have been applied to a process. So if we think about once we get past 3D, 3D is a virtual representation of a thing, it's more complicated when we get beyond that. So when we talk about 4D, it's the application of time to components and objects. But is that, again, most people would assume they go straight into the construction logistics, which is the most common use of what we call 4D. But actually break it down. If we apply time to construction-based things, is it construction tasks? Or is it overall phasing of the life cycle of the building? Is it planned preventative maintenance? So those are repeated tasks that are in a schedule. And there are lots of repeated tasks that are done in the design, construction, and operation of a built asset. So it's not as simple as saying, I want 4D. And then when we get beyond that, there are numerous other dimensions that we've seen published on LinkedIn and posted on LinkedIn. Rarely are they agreed globally. And I think we would gain a lot of value in taking a step backwards or into more detail in some cases and saying, what question is it that me as an architect, as an engineer, as a client, or whoever I'm representing, what is it we want to know? What problem is it we want to solve? What is the challenge? And that's, I think, where we start to get into helpful things. Then we can use things like IDM, information delivery manuals, as a standardized way to describe how to get to that point. And ultimately, we link back into Open BIM, and we can start to say, in order to answer this question, we need objects with data associated to it. So we can use the IFC schema to say, for this particular object, we need these properties of an object. And that becomes a pick list, which then a lot of the software that we've mentioned already can automatically publish to or save as to.
Thank you very much, Cassie, for this beautiful explanation. We talk about the data, we talk about the objects in BIM models. So I also saw a lot of the LinkedIn posts. They are talking about LOD 100 to 500, and someone is stating that it's outdated. You should talk more about level of information needed. Can you please put some light on it?
Yes. Firstly, clarification. So LOD is a widely used term. Not a problem. It will evolve. It will mature. People will come to understand it in a more mature way. When a lot of people are talking about LOD, particularly in this region and the UAE, it is talking about or referencing specifically the BIM Forum LOD specification. And some people refer to that as a standard. The clue's in the title. It's a LOD specification. So it's a specification document. It's not a standard. It is a helpful guide. It's great. It allows people to more easily say, this is what I would like for a particular system or object type. And for the person who's receiving it to say, oh, this is what I'm likely to receive. So level of information need is an international standard, 7817, I think, can't remember. But it is an international standard that says, if you need information, this is how you ask for it. It's a level of information need for a particular purpose. So again, when we come into talk about the categories, use cases that fit into the categories of 4D or 5D, which one of those is a use case and what is it you're trying to achieve? And the level of information need allows you to be a bit more accurate with that. See, I don't have a problem with people saying, right, through the level of information need process, referring to the LOD spec to say, this object needs to look like this at this particular stage. And that's fine. But then you need to tie it into, right, okay, that's what it looks like in a model, or on a drawing, but what data is associated to it. And if you can use IFC to say, for this object, we need these standard properties to be complete at this stage by this person, then that starts to give dual purpose. So it's what does it look like, and can we spatially coordinate it, and what's the data associated with it, and what can we use it for? And that's really the level of information need wrapped up into a nice, neat package to say we need to give it a bit more thought. And one of the challenges particularly prevalent in this region is I'm trying not to use the word lazy, but the habit of saying, at this stage, the whole model will be LOD 200, 300, 400. And I think I know why we've got to that stage. And it's to do with the front cover of the LOD spec. And on the front cover, title, publishers, and a small, what looks like an excerpt from an Excel file with work stages and different colored blue blocks for different work stages for different systems. And then the key for which one of those colors means what is above it. And it's a sort of light blue is LOD 100, slightly darker is 200, darker 300, 400, 500. And it looks as if those colors line up with the work stage. So I think that's made people think, oh, it's concept design, it's got to be 200. And it's not supposed to be that way. So if you take that LOD spec and you flick through and you go to the appendices, you get an Excel spreadsheet, which allows you to go through the work stages. It will allow you to go through every system of the project, whether it's a rail line, a building, and then specify for each type of system or product, if it depends on how much detail you want to go into, what LOD you'd like at what stages. And the analogy I use is you have two projects. One is a primary school, and the other one is a metro station below ground. So if at the concept stage you're trying to say, right, we can move on to the next stage, we've got funds for these things, for the underground metro station, you want a lot more detail on the superstructure and substructure. So all the stuff that's below ground. For the primary school, you can just work on standard book rates to say strip foundations, pile foundations. It's just a calculation. It's not really important for the primary school at that stage because the cost of those can be calculated quite easily. But the cost of the foundations in the below ground foundations of an underground metro station is huge. That's the do we build this or not decision. So that's the reason that the LOD table exists. So you can specify different levels of geometry and data on different systems to allow for different project types.
I would like to know about the exchange information requirement. What exactly this document is?
So again, another document that we can go into lots of detail about. But the exchange information requirements are an appointment level document. So there won't necessarily be one that sits and covers the whole project for everybody, but it'll be appointment level. And it's important to understand that that's basically saying this is the information that we require to be exchanged at various different points by this particular party we're entering into an appointment with. And it's kind of an evolution from the employer's information requirements, which we had in BS 1192. But that was a more broader topic, but we've actually taken it down to appointment level. And it's basically saying, this is what we'd like, and would include the output of the level of information need study, the use cases, and it would get you to a point where, as someone who's being appointed, know exactly what I'm supposed to deliver at what stages.
So let's talk about the BEP, BIM Execution Plan. There are the first BEP is the pre-contract BEP and the second one is the post-contract BEP. What is the key differences and what exactly the BIM Execution Plan is?
Let's work that backwards. So I'll answer your last question first because I think it's the simplest. We've just explained and discussed briefly the exchange information requirements. And what we essentially need to do is to understand how, as a team, we will deliver that. And that's basically what an execution plan is. In olden days, without BIM being discussed, it would have been called a project execution plan. And they should be one and the same thing. So we shouldn't really be creating a project execution plan and a BIM execution plan. It's one and the same thing in my mind. In terms of the difference between pre-contract or pre-appointment and post-contract, it's really a difference between whether you know who you're working with or not. So pre-contract, when you're bidding to or tendering to win a project, you don't know who you might be working with. So it's all about saying, right, this is how we would like to work. We've understood what the client is asking for. We have the relevant documents, and this is how we are likely to work. So because you don't know anybody else, it's how you're going to do that. That then, once everyone is appointed, will be a discussion. The lead appointed party will take a leading role in drafting bringing the different ways of working together to meet the client requirements. So it's as simple as that. So now you know who the civil engineer, the structural engineer, the MEP engineer, the architect, interior designer, fire specialist, lift specialist, whoever the team is, you will know who they all are there. So you can get your heads together, understand how you all will work together to achieve the end result in both project terms and the information delivery terms.
Thank you. Moving to our last segment of the questions. So in your opinion, because of you have a wide experience in this AEC industry, including BIM, information management and all those, what are the key barriers you have faced while implementing the BIM processes on organization level, project level, team level? Could you please explain a bit on it?
We could speak long time about this. The biggest challenge, as always, is people and engaging people and getting them to see why they should be doing certain things and the benefits that they can get out of them. And that's the biggest challenge is I don't think we have enough people to communicate that to project teams. Also, we don't have enough people experienced or comfortable enough to talk about money and risk and commercial issues. And they're not necessarily project level things, but they are board level things. And if we're looking to get the absolute value out of the BIM process, to at a project level create a project, deliver a project, and have the data that sits alongside it that then assists the business in terms of how it needs to operate, that's really the connection we need to make. And I don't think we have enough what we might call BIM people to explain that to a board. And we've spoken about EIRs. What we didn't speak about was before that is the organizational information requirements, the OIRs. So that's basically the property developer saying, this is how we run our business. This is how each project fits into our business systems. And this is the data that we need in order to operate the business as a whole throughout our entire portfolio of properties. So there are challenges with that. But then the main challenge is just convincing people to do things in a slightly different way. I'm all about incremental changes. So we can't expect everyone to be perfect on a project where they've never worked in a BIM way before, but changing small things repeatedly, either by project phase or project by project or client by client, then we gradually get better. This continuous improvement thing is absolutely necessary.
I believe one of the key is the training. So, what will be the training strategy you will suggest to the organization level, developments?
Yep, I would absolutely recommend going out and getting training from a recognized organization. They are numerous around the world. But what I would say is that don't jump into software training first. Understand the process. So any kind of ISO 19650 training. With my Building Smart hat on, I'm going to suggest the professional certification scheme through Building Smart. If you can find a local training provider that delivers that P-Cert scheme, as we call it, at the foundation level, it's relevant to everybody. So it's about understanding the why, the changes required, what's in place, and the frameworks to be able to do all those things. That's relevant to project managers, to cost consultants, project directors, engineers, architects of all disciplines. So it really is worthwhile to understand that and to become a bit more aware of what the changes are. Then you can start to look at specific training for different ways to do your role, but slightly better.
Once I'm trained enough, how I can get a job in UAE or KSA market? Any tip on it?
I would get experience first. It's all about the experience first and being able to demonstrate that experience. I was having a conversation with someone today on the capability and skills issue today, also in connection with AI. And it would seem that in terms of finding a job, advertising a job, and then applying for a job that is advertised, LinkedIn as a platform seems to be eating itself. So as a recruiter, LinkedIn has lots of AI tools to help you write a job description and post a job that's available. Then from someone who's looking for a job, LinkedIn has lots of tools for you to edit and modify your CV, your profile, to meet the specific requirements that job is asking for. So it's helping you write the job description. It's helping you adjust your CV to fit that job description. So it's kind of eating itself in certain ways. And in my experience, what we've seen is that even if we don't use the LinkedIn tools to scour CVs or do the first pass, which is, again, becoming a bit challenging because it's looking for things that meet the job description, actually, when you end up sat opposite someone in an interview and it's very obvious that they've used AI to boost their CV, their skills, their description of their roles, and they can't answer the simplest of questions. So get the experience, get the project worn badge to say, I've done this, I understand the process, because when you get to the interview stage, you will very much be appreciated.
And what are the key decision points or key selection points as a hiring manager you will look into a potential candidate?
I think it is that experience. I would like to hire people. In many roles now, I've promoted not hiring BIM people. if I'm hiring an architect, I want an architect that is BIM capable. I don't want a BIM person. If I'm hiring an engineer, I'd like an engineer who's BIM capable. I'm a big advocate of not having people with BIM titles. And I know that that's perhaps controversial, but you can put, I'm an architect, I'm an engineer, I'm a programmer, coder, I'm a whatever, design manager, project manager, cost consultant, whatever you are, you can be those people, but you can just have another skill. And that other skill would be, I understand the BIM process and I can work in a BIM way. So yes, I would promote that as a recommendation to recruiters and people looking for jobs.
So the last question,
Mm-hmm.
what are your thoughts about the upcoming 5 to 10 years of BIM future and how it could be integrated with AI?
I'll rephrase your question if I can, because I don't have a crystal ball, and I think 5 years ago, I don't think people would have expected AI to have the impact it currently has had. So, in terms of future gazing, I tend to go no more than 3 or 4 years. 5 to 10 is just out of my skill set. So, in terms of where we'd like to see it go, I would like to see just people get better at doing what they do and understand and appreciate the process they're going through to better their solutions. And there is a lot of focus on delivering BIM. And I think we need to rephrase that and just get people to understand when the aim is not to deliver BIM. The aim is to deliver a project using a BIM process. And I think that, again, is a mindset shift for a lot of people to say the focus is on delivering a successful project using BIM. And ultimately, we'll have data that comes out of that. We'll have a virtual representation, hopefully, of what was constructed upon handover. But then it really does serve as a foundation to lots of other digital initiatives that people talk about. So whether it's smart places, cities, buildings, whichever, whether it's digital twins, whether it's AI-related things, machine learning things, whether it's metaverse things, there's all of these other digital initiatives that people are talking about. And if we're going into any of those other digital initiatives and it has something to do with the built environment, you're going to need a standard data set in a standardized data way. If we try and create a digital twin, and again, there's an ISO standard for that. If we try and create a digital twin using information from various different software, we're going to come up against various different problems. Interoperability being one of them. So if we can, again, use IFC as a standardized data format, use the tool, use your Revit for MEP, your Rhino for architecture, use all those, but export the data to IFC so that then the data sits outside of the software that created it. So that data then can be interrogated by any other software. So if the architecture is created in Rhino but exported as IFC, I can interrogate that information using Revit or Tekla or ArchiCAD or Bentley products. It's there as a standardized data format that other software can read. But also you can point a Power BI dashboard at it. So the Power BI dashboard can read IFC data. So you can start to pull standardized data out of that as well. So it depends what your use case is. But if we're starting to say, right, we've got this static data set. So it's a digital representation of a building. Then we've got the dynamic data set. And that's really when we're adding that to this static data set, it starts to become a bit more lively. There's data coming in at various rates of appropriateness from various different systems, building management systems, sensors, IoT. And it's really that connecting the two data sets together to say, it's actually telling me something helpful now. But we shouldn't start with that. We should always start with a use case to say, what is it I'm trying to achieve from a digital twin? And again, different use cases for different things. It might be planning a scenario to turn a football stadium into a music venue for a concert. We can use a digital twin to do that and plan the setting up of that and plan the evacuation in emergency scenarios. So we can do that, but it's a specific use case of specific information that's needed about certain systems.
Is there any specific website to get all these used? Not all, of course. Some of the use cases?
For digital twins, no. Not that I'm aware of. But they will be very specific to the organization that has the built asset. But what I would say is that I co-authored a report. It's actually a digital twin toolkit for the Centre for Digital Built Britain. It's called the Digital Twin Business Toolkit. and it's available on the CDBB website. So yeah, good place to start. It's understanding if you are thinking about digital twins, what do you need to think about to determine whether you actually need one or not? So that's the key thing. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people, when you talk about digital twins, the thing that instantly comes to mind is a 3D version, perhaps in a headset, of your entire project that can do anything you want. You can ask any questions and it'll give you an answer.
I believe the normal dashboard of the railways, let's talk about Indian Railways, they have the dashboard, blinking light on it, that is actually representing the rail that is running from, let's say, Delhi to Mumbai, and giving the right representation of its location is also a digital twin. It's not only about a 3D model having a fancy dashboards in it.
And I referred to there's a digital twin ISO, an international standard, 30173. And I will get the word slightly wrong, but the definition of a digital twin is a virtual representation of a physical entity with an appropriate rate of data exchange or something like that. So it's basically saying your example is true. There's a virtual representation of a rail line, and it shows you where something is at a particular point in time at a relevant frequency. Not in the real world, real time doesn't really exist. There is latency in every system. So when people use the phrase real time, it's kind of a bit lazy. Do you need the maintenance schedule of a school to be real time? No. Because there are weekly tasks, there are monthly tasks, there are quarterly tasks, annual tasks. You don't need it to be real time. So it's about understanding when you need information to make certain decisions or to take certain actions. But it's very much a misunderstood genre or initiative, if you want to call it that, in terms of understanding why people want digital twins.
Because of the vendors want to sell their softwares.
Yeah, and we've all been to those conferences. I've been to those conferences and I've sat in them, and someone will be selling software of a guy running around a building, using whichever hardware and software, and the audience will be clapping and cheering and think it's great. But my question is always, what question is that answering? What is it solving? If it's gamification, that's one thing, but why are you gamifying something? But there are lots of different initiatives that we really need to have a little bit more thought about what it is we're trying to achieve.
So thank you very much, Kathy, for joining us on behalf of BIM Beyond Borders, and have a nice day.